And we are live. Welcome back to another episode of the E-Reads podcast. I am your host, Liz, and I'm a therapist, author, and creative wellness coach. And this is my show where I bring on friends, creatives, wellness providers, and just anyone wanting to talk about the intersection of wellness and creativity. And today, I can't wait for y'all to get to know Monica because she also is a wellness provider. She has a poetry book, and she's going to tell us about how poetry can be a healing tool. So I'm very excited. But before we get into know more about her, let me give you a couple of announcements. So books one of my mystery and fantasy are in Kindle Unlimited. Super yay. So if you've been interested in Sleeping Beauty or New Moon, make sure you are a Kindle Unlimited reader, you can read for free. It will be there for the summer. I don't know, maybe I'll keep it there longer. We'll see how it goes. Also, I put up the pre-order for book 3 in the Lyra Somers mystery series, so you can find that wide or on my website, as well as I have a couple book events coming up. So if you use a platform called Viventi, you can go on there and pre-order books if you're going to be at like the Rhode Island Comic Con, the Poconos Book Festival, and many other local events. So make sure to check that or on my website. And finally, July 27th, I will be back here on live at 10 a.m. with MJ Sony talking about her latest release, which is a cozy mystery. So make sure to come back to listen to that, where we're going to be talking about how to use your hardship as creativity, as she discusses living through apartheid in South Africa and how that informs her characters and her stories. All right, that's it for announcements. Monica, welcome. Please tell the folks a little bit about who you are.
Yeah, so thank you so much again for allowing me to be here. I really appreciate it. And so my name is Monica D. Vance. I am a mental health therapist, specifically a licensed independent clinical social worker, poet, author, and speaker. And I really enjoy just encouraging creatives online and offline to change their mindset.
I love that. And what I have found being an author, like when I first started this journey, I thought I was going to have to keep the wellness separate from the creativity. But the more I'm here, I find so many wellness people in this space. And so tell me, like, what drew you to the heart of creatives in poetry?
Yes, that's so funny. So before I became a therapist, I was always like a writer. Like I've been writing since
Really?
I was little, since like elementary school. And then I became a therapist. And like I think I have this concern. I know maybe you experience this too in your like learning and your program, but there's always this like you have to separate like people can't like you can't be a therapist and do this and be online. I'm like, no, like I gotta reach people. And I see so many creatives who are like struggling with like blocks and barriers and imposter syndrome, insecurity, unresolved trauma. And I'm like, let me just meld the two. And I'm a writer and I'm a poet. I can meld the two worlds together.
Absolutely. And I think there's something healing there. And so, like, I'd like to dive into that. But, like, absolutely, like, for those listening who may not know, when you are going through and learning to be a mental health provider, a lot of it is learning to be a blank slate, right? To separate yourself, to not have any of you show up in the therapy space. But really, it is so healing for others when you bring a little bit of yourself. Not that you
Mhm.
use that as a sense of bias, but I do enjoy seeing a lot of mental health content creators bringing more of themselves, showing a little bit of who they are. In I think it really helps clients. I'm curious, as you were melding the two, the therapy and the creativity, was it also healing for you? Like, tell us a little bit more about that.
It has been because I think it has. I've shown up differently in my work. Unfortunately, like I work in like a community health center, so I'm not in private practice. So most people don't know I'm online unless they like find me somehow. But like I've noticed that like when I'm in service with other clients, like I generally have starting to share a little bit more about myself. Obviously, I don't share everything because they don't need to know everything, and I think there's boundaries. But it's been healing to like not be that blank slate and to be like, hey, like I just went to your country of origin a few weeks ago. Like I loved it there. Like being able to like really share things with my clients.
Yeah, I love that. And like, I feel so seen in this moment because a lot of like what, I started doing creativity writing like because of self-care, because again, so much of what we do is getting to know someone else, really creating space, and sometimes you can lose yourself. And so having that outlet of creativity just kind of helps your brain remember, like, hey, don't forget yourself. Like when you're writing, when you're creating, a lot of it, like you're asking yourself these questions of like, okay, what do you want to do? What feels right for you? Right. Like it helps you to center yourself. And
Yeah.
I love using that in both space, both with creatives and in the wellness space of like helping people find themselves. I think that's so important. And again, I'm curious, like, how has poetry helped you help others?
It has really helped me just impact and empathize and be
Mm,
empathic with other people. So when I do open mics, so when I do open mics, I'll sometimes have people come up to me and be like, I lost somebody too. Like I have this poem
mm,
called Daddy's Girl that talks about the loss of my father. And I'll often have like people come up to me and be like, oh, I've lost a dad, or like I've lost a
yeah.
family member. And like that poem really spoke to me. So there's just really like a lot of power and healing in hearing someone else's story.
Oh, wow. Yeah, okay, so, like, I've, like, 2 questions. So, 1, tell us a little bit more about the power of hearing someone else's story and how that's healing, especially for someone who may be writing or creating art or something, and they're afraid to share it. Like, they're afraid, like, "Oh, man, how are other people gonna receive it?" Because it is powerful hearing someone else's story and be like, "Oh, wow, I felt that too. I'm not alone." So, tell us a little bit more about, how you maybe have overcome that.
Yeah, like I think it helps folks feel like they can heal or overcome, or they can have a sense of resiliency. I've
Mm.
been talking a lot about grief lately on TikTok,
Yes,
and
I've
I feel
seen
like it's
that.
things, yeah, and I've realized people have really been connecting to that and sharing their own stories, and I grief can make you feel so isolated and
Mhm.
unseen. And so when you just unwrap grief and say, like, hey, like it's okay to not feel okay. It's okay to cry about that person that you lost. And I think in that way it helps people know, like, okay, I can grieve too. If she grieved and she overcome and she's still here, like, I can do the same thing.
Oh, I love again, like, that makes me really excited because, like, yeah, like, that's why I love stories, right? When you're reading
Mm.
and you have that moment of like, "Oh, wow, like, it wasn't just in my head, like, someone else has experienced that too." I think it's so powerful, and I think that's why it's so important for
Mm.
creatives to share their art, and, like, when you look at the stats, so many creatives struggle to complete their art.
Yes.
Was that ever a struggle for you, right? Like, when you were so
Yes.
tell us, did you ever wanna stop? Tell us more.
I did stop. So as part of my
Mm,
story is I had stopped. I think it must have been after grad school and a little bit before my dad passed away. I stopped for a number of years. I just re-entered writing poetry like 2 years ago. And
mhm.
so a big part of my story has been like I stopped. I was never gonna write poetry again. The fact that I have a
Really?
whole poetry book is like a big deal to me.
Yes, absolutely. What helped you to get started, when you stepped away for a bit?
I felt this like tug or urgency. I was like, yeah, I need to write again. I was sitting in a service, a church service, and I just heard a poem, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna write this poem down. I started writing it, and that just kind of had me start just writing since then. And I just knew that like my words are a gift. I say they're a gift or an offering to the
Mm.
world, and I knew like I can't hold on to these words. Like these words are not just for me; they're for other people.
Oh, I love that your words are a gift and they're not just for you, they're for other people. I do, I think that's so powerful. Like, even when you were first creating for yourself, right? For your own kind of process,
Mhm.
it doesn't stay there. Like, it is like this little ripple of like it starts with you and then it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And I think that's just such an amazing thing as far as creativity, right? Like when you're in the therapy room, like you're helping that person and that's valuable. But then you also recognize there's so many other people. And I love that
Yes.
more wellness providers are using their creativity to touch more and more people.
Yes. No,
And
yeah.
yeah, and you were talking about you do open mics, and that could be terrifying, right? So, like, what is it that you do to be able to, like, be vulnerable and share your work? Because so many people also struggle with that. They're like, "No, this is just for me." How did you overcome that?
I really enjoy open mics. So before I stopped writing, I had been doing open mics. I'm originally from Massachusetts, so I was in Massachusetts doing open mics, and I stopped writing. And back when I moved to Rhode Island, I'm like, I'm gonna figure out this little open mic scene here. And I see open mics as like being an orator, and like I loved growing up. I loved watching like Black orators just speak, like big Martin Luther King fan, like enjoyed hearing his oration. So I see an open mic as a place to like speak. So
Oh, nice.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And so, okay, so when you see it, you are like excited. You're just like, this
Yeah.
is your okay. For us, that may be shaking in our boots, right? Because some authors, right, there are, again, creatives can be really introverted. Like, so if you were like helping people to like overcome that, where would you tell them to start?
I would tell them to start with how are they seeing themselves? How are they viewing themselves? How are they talking about themselves? It
Oh, that's
starts with
so
like the
good.
self-talk. So are you saying I'm an idiot, I'm stupid, I can't go up there. If I go up there, they're gonna boo me off the stage. Most of the time, no one's gonna boo you off the stage. And if someone does, then they're just nasty and they shouldn't be booing you off the stage.
Oh, but I love that it starts with you. Like, really, right? When whether you're thinking about like, creative anxiety, like publishing, like all the different parts. If you if you are already beating up on you, it makes
Mhm.
it so much harder to overcome that. And so like I love that reminder to shift and to be like, okay, what is the more realistic thing? Like no one's going to boo you. It's going to be fine. You can get back up again. Like that's really helpful. Um I'm kind of curious, like, what is the dream for you? So when you think about your work with creatives, what would you love that to look like?
This is the ultimate dream.
Yes.
I guess in two part, like obviously to continue like encouraging creatives and doing like I'd love to do like workshops and maybe more like curated events, but I also have this wild goal of selling 1,000 copies of my book, even though I'm a debut author. And I know people are like,
Oh,
"Oh,
you can do
debut."
it.
That's
No,
what I
you can
figured.
do
Like
it. You can
I'm
do it.
already at almost 100 books right now. It's been 2 weeks.
I was gonna say, wait, your book just came out. Like that's huge. Okay, go back and please tell us about your poetry book and when it came out, and then we'll get back to Dream Talk. But like 100 books in 2 weeks, because I'm sure you have seen the post where people are struggling to sell even one book.
Yes.
So, you know, how does it feel to get your poetry book out there? Walk us through this journey.
I keep saying little Monica is so excited.
I
Like
love that.
I was like the little black girl sitting at recess by herself writing, felt like a little ugly duckling, and now she like wrote the book. She grew up into a woman and she wrote the book. So I'm like
Love that.
ecstatic. Like, ecstatic.
That's so good. Yeah, absolutely. And when you were so writing a book, right? So you start with chapter 1 and you end that there, but a poetry collection is a lot of different works. Walk us through, how did you decide what went in this and how you laid it out? Like what was that thought process like?
I at first it was super messy, and then I eventually got myself organized and I put it into sections. So I
Yeah,
have like just opening it up a little bit. I have
please.
a section on creativity, a section on grief, foundation, healing, and then purpose. And so it
Yeah.
goes from like you can create to like you can heal, and then you have a purpose. There's more. And so each it takes you on this like journey. And so I realized I wanted it to be cohesive. I didn't want it to be this like sporadic poetry collection. There's nothing wrong with that, but for me, I wanted it to like meld into each other. So I'm like, I have to create sections. And
I love
certain
it. Yeah.
poems didn't make the cut. Certain poems, I'm like, this doesn't make this book. The future book it will make. But
Oh, so literally, like, again, similar to like fiction writers, so it's like, we got to remove this scene. It doesn't work. So, like, how was
yeah,
that for you? Was it hard removing some things? Or again, like, I like how you said, like, it just doesn't make it here. It's not like it doesn't make the light of day. It doesn't make it here. What helped you to be able to say, it's not this time for this poem?
I had to drop my ego a little bit because even editing was painful. This was like I had two friends edit my poems, and a few poems that I loved. One of the poems I actually took certain lines out of it because it made no sense and it hurt my little heart at first. But I'm like, if this doesn't make sense to the person that's editing my poem, it's not gonna make sense to the readers. And it has to
Mhm.
make sense. You can have the most beautiful metaphor, but if it makes zero sense, like there's no point for it to be in the poem. So I was
Absolutely.
working for it to be a readable book.
Absolutely, because I think again people get struggle there because you can be so tied to it because it means something for you, and sometimes like the healing part is you wrote it, you got it on the page, you got it out, but
Yeah.
again, if no one else understands, then it wasn't for them, it was just for you, and I think knowing the difference is really important.
Yes. Oh, for sure.
Absolutely, and in the publishing process, right, whether deciding with, Amazon or other platforms, how was that for you? Because again, like, sometimes people get stuck because it's too much information and they become overwhelmed. Did you all, just kind of walk us through your thought process of getting it from yourself out into the world? What were your steps?
So I decided I wasn't going to do this by myself. I know some people are great at DIYing it. I was like, I want a beautiful cover. So I found a cover designer off of TikTok.
Nice.
She's published lots of books herself. And so she helped walk me through the process of like, let's do Ingram Spark. And I was scared of Ingram Spark. I'm like, no, I just want Amazon because that's all I knew. I've heard about people having like weird situations of Ingram Spark. I was like, I'm not gonna get this extreme fee from them. But she was like, no, no, like there's a way to do it. You won't get a fee. I'm like, okay, fine. So we worked through it.
But you know what? That's so real because like everything and like for me, y'all, I'm a catastrophizer. Everything for me is like $15,000. It's gonna go bad. All of these things,
Yeah,
and so you need to kind of like temper the anxiety and say like, okay, like let's just try this. And so
yeah,
I love that you were able to have someone to like talk you into all the different options because
yeah.
yeah, while it may not work for someone, it may work for you. So I love that you were able to like have the fear and do it anyway, have the
Yeah.
uncertainty and find the answers. I think that's really key.
Yes, and I love that I did it because now, like, my book is in an indie bookstore in Providence. It would have never gotten there if it was just on Amazon because we know historically indie bookstores do not love Amazon for all its associated reasons.
Absolutely. And like, I'll kind of phrase it like this. So was it your goal to be in bookstores? So like when you first started and you were publishing, what were some of your goals?
I wanted to be in a bookstore. And I thought, well, I can do Amazon and do like consignment. But then my book designer was just like, Ingram Spark, like, let's go. We need to do Ingram Spark. And so I had this, I've always had this like dream since I was a little Monica. I want my book in a bookstore. So seeing her, I call her a her, seeing her in an indie bookstore was like the ultimate dream completed.
I love that. And yeah, I call them the girls, right? They are
Oh,
the
they're
girls. Yep. I love seeing the girls in bookstores. And like, Ingram, again, while they may have really big fees and like there's some, barriers, like it's not perfect like any platform. It
yeah,
does make it accessible for indie authors to be in bookstores. And when you are in bookstores, it's easier for people to find you. Like social media is great, but most readers discover books in bookstores. And so like yeah, you're going to meet your dream of 1,000 books if you keep talking about it and people find you in bookstores. And so, in thinking about that dream, 100, like you said, 100 books nearly in 2 weeks, right?
yes.
Okay, what was your marketing plan or like how did you get there? Because again, we've seen the posts that people are like, wow, I'm on social media, I'm doing this and I haven't sold anything. I've only made 50 cents, all these different things. What helped you to keep going as a debut author?
A lot of YouTube. I was listening to lots of podcasts and I had to see myself as an entrepreneur. I think there are authors who
Hmm.
see themselves as an author and that's fine. Like I'm gonna write this book and like my friends will buy it and that's fine for them. But I knew I had to put on the I'm an author and I'm a small business woman. So if I want this book to sell, I have to talk about it until it gets on people's nerves. I pre-marketed it for a good 5, 6 months. I was like, I have a book coming out in the summer. I have a book coming out. People are like, when? It's coming out in the summer. None of your business when it's coming out. It's coming out in the summer. Like I just kept talking about it. And then had my cover reveal post and like different posts just talking about the book. Went to open mics. I have a book coming out. I geared up so much excitement to the point people are like, when is this book coming out? I'm like, and then I finally gave a date. And so I think that shift in mindset really helped me to see like even though I have a whole 9 to 5, like this is the side business. Like I'm a whole business right now and I have to function as one.
I love that I'm a whole business and have to function as one because at least again for me, that was a big shift as well because it really drove being intentional to try and sometimes even fail, but to learn, to grow, to really have this drive of like, okay, what are people in business doing? Not just authors, but what are people in business doing to drive, sales and growth? I think that's super important. And I love that that mindset shifted. And I'm curious, anything from your therapy, your mental health background helped as far as marketing and sales for the time where again, like sometimes you're speaking on the internet and like nothing's happening, like you're you're getting nowhere. Like so anything that you drew from being, again, a mental health provider that helped you to keep going.
I think mindset definitely, and even like I do a lot of affirmations online. Sometimes I have to give myself a little pep talk, like you think it's crickets, and then like I'd go to an open mic and someone would be like, "Oh, I saw that post." I'm like, "Oh, really? I didn't know anybody was looking at that
Let
post."
me tell you, readers, I don't think you understand how important you are. Like when you see authors in the wild and you've seen our book, tell us because sometimes it could be like, nobody's seeing this. No, like these 100 views, this 200 views, this is not going anywhere. But like that starts to add up when you think of it every day, all the time.
Yeah,
It starts to add up. And so tell authors, whether they're traditional or indie, hybrid or whatever, that you've seen their work. It really
yeah,
brightens our day.
for sure. So
What
it's
has and I was just gonna ask, like, what has been some maybe of your favorite reader moments as a debut author?
Oh, I just had one recently. I think it was last week. So I was in this show with a lot of other artists, and I was able to like sell my books at a table. And like afterwards, someone was like, "Oh, she bought your book. Like you should sign it." So I talked to her. I signed her book, and I had read a poem about dreams. And she's like, "That poem about dreams that really got to me because I have these dreams that I'm kind of being logical about. But you had this line that I heard in the poem that like really impacted me." And like I gave her a hug and like signed it. And like I have this running joke. I'm looking for the Simones. These are like the black women that the book is for. And so I felt like I found a Simone at that event. I
Oh,
was like so excited.
I love that. Oh my goodness. I feel like I gotta name my reader.
Yeah. It
Oh, I
has
love that.
though. It gives you a
Yeah,
whole mind shift to look for them.
I love that. And then thinking about mind shifts, what would you say are maybe like the top three mind shifts, one or three mind shifts that you think creatives need to have?
I think one mind shift is this is kind of going back to something my dad used to say, like you have to crawl before you walk. So sometimes you're gonna look a little clumsy. Sometimes you just need to take a step. It might look foolish, it might look cringy, but you have to make some step. Maybe it's like emailing a bookstore, maybe it's like writing a line of a poem, maybe it's like drawing one little thing in your portrait. But I think it's just making one step. It doesn't have to be a gigantic step, but like a baby step at least. I think two, being your own cheerleader. Sometimes I'm looking for validation from other people, and that's fine if people encourage you. But there are moments where I have to encourage myself and be like, "There's nobody around here to like rah 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 me right now. I have to rah 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 myself." And maybe the third one would be, let's see, maybe related to that is not being so hard on yourself. And I think if you tend to have perfectionists, high standard tendencies, being like congratulating yourself for like the small moments or the small accomplishments, being grateful for where you're at.
I love all of those. And like, listen, you need it, especially, right now being a creative is really hard, whether it's fear of AI, people not having money to support your projects.
Yeah.
Like there are a lot of things creatives are currently struggling with. And so I love all those mindsets of what is that small thing? Because again, like there may be times you feel like there's nothing you can do, but like go and in that micro step. What is that thing that's going to move you forward so you are encouraged? Encourage yourself because listen, it is your business, it is your book, it is your project, and sometimes there's not going to be anyone there, not because they don't love you, but
Yeah.
because this is yours and you got to believe in it first. You got to believe in it when it's a seed. And, again, like, don't be hard on yourself. And as someone who is very hard on herself, it doesn't do anything. It doesn't move you forward at all. And so I look forward to other poems that maybe dive into the mindsets or workshops and things like that. And so hopefully, again, maybe we can collaborate on a workshop or something one day. I would love that, because I love what you're doing for creatives. I think it's super important. And again, like, as someone who's in the wellness space, when you see creatives struggling with things, you're like, I have the answer. And you just want people to have it and to use it. And so, again, I hope creatives find you and they implement the strategies, because it's super helpful.
Yes. Oh, for sure.
Absolutely. I'm curious if you have your book close by, can you read us a little bit of any of a poem that you feel like we need today? Yes, please, please.
Oh, for sure. Yes. Actually, I have permission to dream. I think would be a good one.
Nice.
Look for that
What
one.
inspired this one, if you can share?
I kind of like spontaneously heard it, and I was like, okay. I feel like a lot of people have these dreams, and I think trauma, loss, shame kind of like messes up the dreaming process of like
Oh,
when we're
so much so.
little. Yeah, like when we're little, we dream wide. We're like, I'm gonna be a doctor, an engineer, and an artist. Like, how are you gonna do all those jobs? But you still were gonna dream it. And you get older, life happens, the stress of life happens. You have to get the 9 to 5. Something wrong with 9 to 5. I have one, but like, what is like your actual like real dream? And I just want folks to know, like, you have permission to dream.
Literally, I say all the time, like, I ask folks, like, okay, what do you want to be when you grow up, right? Like, I don't care how old you are. You can be 7 years old, 70 years old. What do you want to be when you grow up? Every day we're growing. Like, what do you want to do? Who do you want to be? Like, I love that. Like, don't lose that ability to dream, because that's really when life stops, when you stop dreaming. Like, you have to keep dreaming.
Yes. Like I've had a few people say, like, I love that you wrote a book. I've always wanted to write one. I'm like, you go write one too. You can do it.
Yes. Oh, I love that. Yeah. Please read whenever you're ready.
Sure. So I got permission to dream. Okay. Permission to dream. Stir yourself up again. I heard a wise leader proclaim, it costs you nothing to dream. But you threw your dream in the trash can. You enveloped yourself in the 9 to 5, but the job is not your identity. You are a formation of wonder. But you've nailed yourself to demands. You've lost yourself in normalcy. You are a different tree. A fig tree masquerading as an apple tree, but bear your figs, showcase your roots. You've been ridiculed for being a dreamer, but dreamers are needed to ignite other dreamers. Dreamers carve paths for others to travel. Stir yourself up again. Remember where you have been planted. You keep resorting to the orchard grounds. You are a fig tree. Your dreaming is sacred, but you've plugged your ears with logic. You've consumed ordinary water. Take the precious dream out of the trash can. Wipe off the dankness. You have permission to dream. That's permission to dream.
Snaps all around. Really, so many high-powered lines. Um, the one two of them. Okay, I'll give you two. But like a fig masquerading as an apple tree. I love that, because right, like, so many of us, right, put on these roles of like, if I just do what's normal, do what's expected, maybe the dream will go away and I'll learn to like love this life. But that's not like it was put in you, and it wants to be fed, and like, just be that fig tree, be, that person that you were called to be. I think that is so important. But we just kind of throw the dream in the trash. We say it can't be done. It's a dream, right? We're waiting for this moment to like just wake up and exist, but like, that dream needs to be fueled. And so I love that, as well as dreams ignite other dreamers or other creatives. Like that line about that was so powerful, right? It's just something powerful when you get other creative people in a room, right? Like, so many things start to be born, and you need that. And in a world where they're trying to cut off, like, the creatives, the critical thinking, all of that, it is really important to connect
Mhm.
with like-minded folks and to, again, foster those dreams. And so that really ignited me. I have to go and get your book. And so tell us, how do we get your book? How do we support you? Where do we find you?
Yeah, so thank you so much for the feedback about that home, first of all. And how you can get my book is she is on, I could show her real quick because I love the
Yes.
cover. Um, she is on Amazon. I know not everybody loves Amazon, so if you like Amazon, nay. You can also find her on Barnes and Noble. She's on Walmart, a few other retailers, but Amazon and Barnes and Noble are the big places. If you live in the Rhode Island area and you're near Providence, she's in Symposium Books. You can buy her in person or online. You can also like find me on socials if you're like wanting to figure out other ways you can buy her. If you live in Rhode Island and you want to buy her directly, you can also find me on these streets and I'll give it to you directly.
Listen, the next time I'm up in Rhode Island, I gotta connect with you so I can get mine signed because I want mine signed because I'm
Yeah,
just in Connecticut. I'm not that far from
I
you.
realized that a while ago. I'm like, we're not that far from each other.
No, we are not. So definitely gotta pull through. Absolutely. Thank you again. Any remaining words, last words that you want to leave us with this episode?
I say this to a lot of folks when I actually write it, when I autograph my book. There is more. And there is more could mean whatever it is for folks, but there is more. Beyond what you're experiencing, beyond the mundane stuff that you're dealing with, there is more. You could take that however you want to take it.
Mm. And for homework creatives, I would say, creatives, readers, write down what is that, right? What is that there is more for you? And like on those days where you want to give up, on those days where it's hard, like revisit that there is more, right? And that that so helps your dream not to die. And so thank you for leaving us with that. I look forward to connecting more. All the best,
Yeah.
everyone. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.
Bye.